Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you, wherever you are watching this in the world. My name's Mark. Welcome to my channel. So, as of July the 24th, here in Britain, it's going to be mandatory to wear a face mask in certain public situations. They're saying that if you go into hospital, you have to wear a face mask. You go anywhere that has any medical facilities, you have to wear a face mask. They're also saying that if you go into shops and places where you cannot safely socially distance, you have to wear a face mask. Now, there are lots of questions about this. Lots of very, very contradictory evidence. Some people saying they help to stop the spread of COVID. Most people saying they don't. So there are very serious questions we have to ask. And in this video, I'm going to go into some of those questions. So I hope you enjoy your viewing. Okay, so let's take a very, very quick look at what the government's saying here. This is the latest government advice. This is the latest advice number 8, as you can see. Face coverings. You must wear a face covering at all times on public transport or when attending a hospital as a visitor or outpatient. Hospitals will be able to provide a face covering in emergencies. If you can, you should also wear a face covering in other enclosed public spaces where social distancing isn't possible and where you will come into contact with people you do not normally meet. This is most relevant for short periods indoors in crowded areas. You should be prepared to remove your face covering if asked to do so by police officers and staff for the purposes of identification. Fair enough. The next little paragraph's very interesting. Having told us that we have to wear face masks, it then says, evidence suggests that wearing a face covering does not protect you. However, if you are infected but have not yet developed symptoms, it may provide some protection for others you come into close contact with. So, there's quite a lot there that immediately leaps out to me. The first thing is, the government has suddenly decided that as of July the 24th, we all have to wear a face mask to fight coronavirus. Now, Britain went into lockdown on the 23rd of March. That's 4 months ago. So my big question is, if face masks are so important to fighting coronavirus, why were we not told that we should wear face masks 4 months ago when the country first went into lockdown? Now, here's the thing. When we first went into lockdown, obviously that was the time when the coronavirus was most virulent. Most people, the largest number of people were being infected, and 7, 8, 900, sometimes 1,000 people a day were dying. At the moment, the number of deaths is minuscule. Too many, of course, but it's minuscule, and that's because the coronavirus is dying out. We've done a wonderful job of tackling it, and it's dissipating. There's a lot of evidence, and I've been watching a lot of videos by some very, very clever people, scientists, to say that coronavirus actually has a natural lifespan and that it actually dies out naturally, and that seems to be what's happening. But the thing is, why are we now, when the virus is dying, and the only people who are currently at threat of coronavirus are people in these very, very small at-risk groups, the elderly and people who are already sick, why are we now having to wear face masks when the virus is actually dissipating? But we weren't having to wear face masks 4 months ago when we had 1,000 people a day dying. It's a fascinating question. The government claims, and this is very important, the government claims that there is new evidence to suggest that face masks will help fight coronavirus. Do your own research. They don't actually cite any evidence. That's really strange. They talk about this new evidence and then they don't cite any of it. They don't say such and such a scientist or such and such a study. And you can't actually find, well, I haven't been able to find any of this new research that suggests face masks. For every one report that you can find that says face masks will help to fight the virus, you'll find 3 or 4 that says face masks make absolutely no difference whatsoever. Now, the government, the piece that I've just read out, says, and this is the government telling us, that evidence shows that face masks don't actually protect you from coronavirus. So the government is sending us the message that face masks don't protect you, but they're making them mandatory for everyone because the government says they will help protect you from coronavirus. That is complete and utter madness. The other thing about that short statement that I just read out that immediately leaps out to me is the part where it says, if you can, you should wear a face mask when out in public. Now, I'm not a legal expert by any means, but if the government is making something mandatory, and by the way, the government have said that if you don't wear a face mask, you'll be fined £100. I'm going to get onto the absolute absurdity of that in a few moments, so stay tuned. But I'll move on to that. So they said if you can wear a face mask in public. Now, if you're making something mandatory, if it's a legal requirement, and it has to be a legal requirement because you can't fine somebody for not doing something unless it's a legal requirement. What does if you can mean? You can't make something mandatory that will lead to people being fined and then simply insert the language if you can wear a face mask, because what does if you can mean? What does it mean? If I go out to the shop and someone says you're not wearing a face mask, I say, I'm sorry, I can't wear one. Well, why not? I couldn't buy any. I can't afford one. That I've ordered them, but they haven't come through the post. Are you going to get fined? It's a very nuanced point that they've put in that document. But those three words, if you can, it's just an absolute nonsense to say that. You can't make something mandatory and make something legal to the point where you're going to fine people and then use language like if you can, you wear a face mask. So that is absolutely absurd. Okay, so let's move on to this idea of the government is going to fine you £100 for not wearing your face mask in public places. That's very interesting because what I'd like to know is who the hell is going to enforce those fines? Who is going to march up to somebody in a supermarket? There's a group of 5 guys, right, in a supermarket. None of them are wearing face masks. There's a lady who works in the supermarket who spots those 5 guys. Is she going to walk up to those 5 guys and say, I'm sorry, you're not wearing face masks. You need to pay £100 fine, please? What do you think's going to happen when 5 guys are told that? They're going to laugh. They might not be particularly pleasant guys. They might get a bit raucous, a bit aggressive. Might tell her to do one, get lost, or far worse. Who knows? People get angry when they're told that they have to do things or someone's going to take money out of their pockets, right? So how is that going to be enforced? How are you going to get shop staff, supermarket staff, somebody who works in a bakery and somebody comes in without a face mask? How are you going to get those people to physically fine people? How does that work? Do shop workers, have they all got, the kind of equipment like traffic wardens have got, where they can punch out a fine and give you a ticket? No, they haven't. Nobody's got any of that sort of stuff. So how is somebody working in a shop or a supermarket going to literally give you a fine? Does anybody know? Do you know? Because I've got no idea. And I've done some research and I haven't been able to find any literature or anything online that is advice for shop people, shop workers, on how you fine people. And therefore, I don't think it's possible to enforce the fines. The only way you could enforce those fines is if you had a police officer in every single shop and every single supermarket in Great Britain. Well, that's not happening, of course. That's impossible. You can't do that. So who's going to fine these people? How are they going to be enforced? And the other thing is, if you can't enforce fines, then the law that you'll be fined is completely pointless. If you can't enforce it, if you can't fine people, then nobody's going to care about being fined. As of July the 24th, I will wear a face mask in shops and public places. I don't want to. I've got some. They're ridiculously expensive, of course, because everybody who's selling face masks is now profiteering from the fear, so they've shoved the price of face masks up, which is disgusting. But hey, who cares about fear? Let's just make lots and lots of money out of people, right? So I will wear a face mask, not because I'm afraid of being fined, but just because I don't believe personally that face masks are actually going to make any difference to the spread of COVID. As I said, I've done lots of research and I can't find any credible scientist who can come out and say covering your face is going to help limit the spread or reduce your chances of getting it. That's another point, of course. So I will wear face masks because I feel that there may be a chance, and I don't want to be responsible if I had it with no symptoms from possibly giving it to somebody else. But the absurdity of, I think it's absurd. I think I think the fact that the government has had us in lockdown for 4 months and none of us have had to wear face masks, and all of a sudden it's crucial we wear face masks, just shows you how ridiculous it is. It's ridiculous, and I don't think the government are following medical or scientific advice. I think they're making it up as they go along. I think the truth about this face masks thing is the British government have really lost control over their response, and I think this is a way of pretending to the British people that they have some element of control. Look, this is us. This is what we're doing to keep you safe. And I think, or I hope, that the British people can see through that, because I can see through it, because it's nonsense. It's absolute rubbish. I will be wearing a face mask, but it's a nonsense rule. How are you going to have hundreds and hundreds? I live in a very small town. There'll be hundreds of people in the local sort of shopping area on Saturday and Sunday. If you've got 30 or 40 people walking around without face masks, who is going to stop those people and levy fines? Nobody is. The government and the mainstream media in this country seem to be doing everything they possibly can to just terrify people as much as they possibly can. And the British economy is going down the toilet and huge numbers of people are losing their jobs. And I believe this face mask rule will actually keep people away from the shops. When when you're walking around at the moment, some people are wearing face masks and it looks really weird. But I think when everybody's wearing a face mask, it's going to scare a lot of people. It's going to hit home. And I think that a lot of people are simply going to stay away from the shops. There are some people who aren't going to be able to wear face masks. You can get an exemption certificate from your doctor, because there are some people who have mental health issues or physical issues. People who suffer with anxiety and agoraphobia, for instance, might not be able to wear a face mask because face mask could bring on a panic attack. So that's a group of people that might be exempt. But again, if people are exempt from wearing face masks, it's not going to work, is it? You either have to have everybody wearing a face mask to stop the spread or nobody. Because if 100 people in the street are wearing a face mask but 40 people aren't, then the virus obviously could spread. So anyway, folks, if you live in Britain, let me know what you think. I will be wearing a mask. I would urge people to wear masks, but I would also urge people, please educate yourself, because my greatest fear is that the British government is using this coronavirus scare to make us so scared and so fearful that they will be able to push through all kinds of anti-freedom, draconian legislation that make us in Britain far less free and far less democratic, but they'll be able to hide it under the auspices of we're doing this for your own health. I've been Mark. Thank you so much for tuning in. My next video is going to be a large grocery haul video, so something a bit lighter and a bit less serious than coronavirus. I hope this is the video where I've earned your subscription, and please take care, and I'll see you all again very, very soon. Thank you very much.